You're dark and here, live as to be a day. You're dark and here, live as to be a day. You're dark and here, live as to be a day.
Hey guys, welcome to I almost said Into the Storm podcast. That's my other podcast. Welcome to Be Real Sales Training Podcast. Today, we are joined with a good friend of mine and a absolute beast in the sales industry. That is Corey Berrier, man. How's it going, Corey?
Good, brother. How about you? Good to see you.
Doing great, man. Doing great, brother. Man, I'm so stoked to have you on. I know we spent some time together a few years back in Raleigh, out knocking some doors and doing some roofing stuff. You was kind of gathering some information and maybe thinking about, getting in and trying to help some folks out. You want to talk a little bit about that experience of coming and hanging out with my back then, my nickname was the Roof Ninja. Kind of tell me a little bit of how that went for you, brother.
It was, I've always enjoyed, spending time with you, Ken. We spent several, we've spent some time together since then, but specifically what I loved about that experience was you do things very differently than when I see most people in the sales game do. And I don't know if it's okay if I give away one of your secrets, but one of the things I thought was absolutely fascinating that you took the most time to do is the video, making sure that you use, I don't remember what software you were using, but at the end of after you got done checking the roof and figuring out what was going on with it, you handed the video to the customer and then turned around and walked off and put the ladder up. And what that did for me is you've done two things there. You forced them to look at the sales pitch without you being there for a rebuttal. And I mean, I just, it was, to me, I thought it was the best movie I could have ever seen.
Well, Corey, you want to know the secret, man, or the honest truth about that is that was almost incidental. Like the way that happened was I got started in roofing right as COVID hit. And so you couldn't actually sit face to face with people. The great thing about it was everybody was at home, right? So as I went door knocking, man, it was like a Saturday every day. Everybody was home. And so I knock on the door. Of course, you back off the steps or whatever. And so you're talking to them. But I have no way to actually stand there like typically you stand there and you're showing them the photos in your phone or whatever. And I was like, well, how can I talk through this? So I actually just started making videos. And I would knock back on the door when I got done with the inspection. I would just set my phone down right there. And I said, you come out, you just hit play. And while they would watch the video, I had to stay away from them. Like, you know what I mean? So I would go put my ladder on. And then whenever all that stuff started lightening up, I started going back to the way that everybody does it. And it's like, man, now I'm getting a lot of lip back. And I'm like, you know what I mean? And what I found too, is I was having a lot of success. So I was training other people. And as I trained them and let them do the talking, I noticed that, like, depending on how the personalities matched up, a lot of them just wasn't comfortable trying to explain stuff. And then somebody would interrupt them and ask some questions. And it was just a lot of, I said, dude, the great thing is you go up there and you make that video 25 times if you got to, but you make it perfect, come down, hand it to them, and then they can't give you any lip. You just go off and do your thing, and they're doing their thing. And like you said, they're stuck watching it, and nobody's not going to watch it. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I just coined that as being a virtual tour, and I bring your roof down to you. And so I always kind of coach that, and it's very non-threatening. There's a big saying, nothing's a great idea unless it's your idea. And they kind of come to the realization that that's an issue. Their issues are there. You don't have to push them or talk them or persuade them or anything, man. You just present it, and they're like, oh man, that's jacked up. What do we do next?
Yeah.
So,
Well, you think about, when you think about, everybody either expects it's a roofing person to knock on the door or a solar person, right? I
mhm,
mean, everybody's kind of expecting that. And then when you show up differently and give them that video, it's a different experience. And that's what people are looking for. They don't really want to stand there and talk to you. Nothing
right,
against you. They just don't want to talk to anybody. In this
right.
day and time, you mentioned COVID, people barely answer the door. So if you could give them a service that's different than what everybody else is doing, then you're likely going to, obtain them as a customer. That's what people want.
Right. Well, man, let's talk about the big thing here, man. Like, I just added to my book collection, bro. And you know anything about that?
I know something about that.
So, man, that's I mean, you're right up there with in my bookcase, man. And I try to really keep up on personal development and I've obviously learning stuff about the trade that I'm in and having the opportunity to coach sales teams around the country, man. I'm always researching and finding different techniques and really just finding gaps of something that maybe I just genuinely just know it, but I don't think that it needs to be coached. And then all of a sudden I hear somebody talk about it. I was like, dang, that's something that's missing. There's a gap in my training. And so not that I steal their stuff, but it's like, okay, well, here's how I would approach that, or here's how I would coach it. And so I'm constantly just pulling from that. And I tell you, I went through your book, man. It's phenomenal. Really enjoyed that. But talk to me a little bit about what kind of got you, to where the point where you want to write a book about sales.
Great question, but thank you for buying the book. I appreciate that. I don't know how many times I've even told this story. To be honest with you, a very good friend of mine who lives up in D.C. I was kind of floundering around. I've been in sales forever, and I was kind of floundering around trying to figure out what it was I really wanted to do. And so I went up with this guy, and we sat one weekend, about 3 days, and we built out an entire course so I could teach things that I've learned on sales. And there was 9 steps in that course. And so I didn't build the course and I was going to make a book out of it. But what I found is that the steps are important and they're applicable to any sales organization. Now, it does go from kind of the salesperson, that first chapter, Confidence to Close, all the way to the end where it's talking about how to build a sales organization and how to work with people inside a sales organization. So it goes kind of from one spectrum to the next, from one spectrum to the other. But what, I'm going to be honest with you. Really, I wrote that book because sheer ego. That was it. I wanted to just say that I'd written a book. And then after that, did you think my life changed that much? No, it really didn't. It really didn't change that much. And so, yeah, I could say I've written a book. There's really not that much clout to it these days. I mean, like
Right.
it is what it is.
Well,
And
when did it become a thing? When did it become a thing when did you even start thinking? Because it's not a common thought. Hey, I'm going to write a book. Was it something 10 years ago? I want to write a book. Like some people think they want to write a book, but they don't even know what they want to write it about. They just want to write a book. I mean, how did that manifest itself?
Well, so I took all the information that we had built out in this course, and I just realized that, I could transfer this into a book. And really what happened is I went to this speaking academy, and at this speaking academy, there was a publisher there, and I explained to him what I'd done in this course and the outline of it. And he said, well, we should publish this as a book. And I hadn't really thought about that. I hadn't really thought about putting it into a book format. And so I paid this guy to help me to map it out. And that was really, that was about the extent of it. I did write the book to want to help people and get the message out, but also wanted to say that I've written a book. But I want to sidestep that for just a moment. And now what that's done, that experience that I just told you, that is almost kind of selfish and self-seeking, is now I'm in the process of writing a book that really means a lot to me. And it's not, I don't know when it's going to come out. I had put out some information that it was going to come out soon. Yep, that's it. Alcohol is a solution. And so this is really important to me because my journey with alcohol and drugs has, mapped out my life. And if it wouldn't have been for me getting completely sober about 18 months ago, I don't know where my life would be, because I was on a struggle bus. And the confidence to close, to tie it back to the first book, my confidence was pretty low. I'd made some really bad decisions because I wasn't completely sober, and I wasn't working, any sort of a recovery program. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that now that I've gone through that experience and written that first book for reasons that were self-seeking, this book now I'm writing to where hopefully it changes some people's lives. And does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. And that's something, that entire rabbit hole or whatever, that whole part of your life is something that I want to go into on another podcast for sure. And we're definitely gonna do that and cross that bridge. And in the actual, accidentally, the podcast I started to introduce when we started. Um, but I think that personal development, I see a huge parallel in personal development and sales. Like I think that they run very much parallel, um, because the way that you have to motivate yourself, the way you have to connect with other human beings, the way you have to understand other people, just not just through their buying habits, but just how to communicate with people, and they're buying you. Like I don't care what I've ever sold, what company I've ever sold for. Man, when I started selling roofs, man, I had a T-shirt and I had a 2001 Jeep Wrangler with a cargo thing on the back with a little giant strapped on it. I mean, they didn't buy the company. They didn't even know the name of the company. They were buying Ken. And so my confidence in how I carried myself, and it's very hard to fake that. Like it's hard to fake who you are. And so when you're there and really that's where your confidence, where, like you said, confidence to close, your confidence comes because you actually know who you are. And so when you're standing there, and that's why I try to make people understand when I'm coaching them, is have the confidence that you are providing a true service and you're doing something good for people. Like you're not out there pulling the wool over people's eyes. Now, unless you work for a company that you are, then then that's on you, brother. But I always felt comfortable with the companies I was with and what I was there for. Even down to the point to where I never asked anybody for permission to do a roof inspection. Like I just told them who I was, why I was there, what I was going to do, and then I used a transition question and went right into, so how long have you owned your home, or are there any leaks that you're aware of? I never asked for permission, and the reason I didn't wasn't me being cocky. It was just like I knew that there's no reason why you wouldn't want this service. Like you know what I mean? Like it wasn't, and I just felt confident in that, and because I had that confidence, I didn't pause or slow down or get nervous. And you've seen it, whenever it's time to go in for the close. And I really considered that first inspection as like a mini close, because what is a close is when you ask someone to take action, right? Or give you permission to
Right.
do something, right? So that's like a little mini close that builds up to the big close at the end. But those mini closes are vital. And so when they get close to asking for anything, then it's like their whole energy changes, man. A lot of people are good at just talking to people. That's selling, but closing's a different deal, bro. Like, and so I never even crossed the bridge. Like, I just felt like I'm not going to ask you permission. That's giving you a chance to say no, right? And some people twist it around, say, "Well, would you be objected to me, going up and doing inspection because they know people want to say no?" This kind of the strategy there. But the reality is, I'm not even concerned with that, bro. Like, I'm here to do an inspection. These are the reasons why, and we just move on. But that's that confidence that is hard to instill that in people, man. Like, I was around you. I've been around you a good bit, man, and most good salespeople have a sense of confidence about them. Now it can cross over, and where I feel like people, I feel like where people kind of create a bad energy and a bad vibe in the sales industry, not roofing, but sales industries are where that confidence becomes cockiness. And then people read that. It's like, dude, I can't stand salesmen. No, they can't stand salesmen that cross over that line, you know. And it's hard
Yeah.
when you're really good at something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would be like kind of cocky walking away from the door when I'm training somebody. It's like, dude, we're getting these. Like, this is a done deal. I would never project that on the homeowner, but it's like I just knew it. And then I would hear people telling stories, man, that guy he was calling his shot, man, before we even signed the deal. But talk a little bit
Yeah.
about how you got your confidence and kind of how you got into sales to begin with.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to take it all the way back, I mean, I started hunting golf balls when I was when I kid, out on the golf course. I lived on a golf course and I would take them and sell them down to the sporting goods store. And that was really the first thing I really ever sold. And I would do that, all year long because people lose their golf balls. I'd polish them up, take them down, and I would get, I don't know, 50 cents or 25 cents. I don't know what it was then, not much, but it was enough. So that whole process was my first experience in sales. And so I do agree that confidence can trip over into ego, and people don't like that. And a good salesperson knows how to read the room. They know how they have emotional intelligence. They can have a conversation with you and not worry about the outcome. And that's where a lot of newer salespeople go sideways is they need to make the paycheck, right? And I get it because I've been there. And it's really hard, to be confident walking away from a sale when you got to pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, busting your face over and over the years, and it really just comes with experience. And I don't know how you get that overnight. It's really impossible to get that overnight. But I do believe, by bringing somebody in like yourself, working with an organization and bringing your experience and people being able to use your experience when they're walking up to that door, it doesn't matter if it's their experience. As long as they have a story from you about X, Y, or Z, they can use your story. That customer doesn't know. That doesn't mean you're lying to them.
Right.
You're just telling them a story. People,
Right.
stories tell and facts tell. And if you're going up and you're explaining about all the shingles and how you're going to put them, that people don't care about that. They care
Right.
about what you're going to do for them. Like, is it going to protect the roof of my house? Am I going to have to call you back out here to fix a bunch of stuff? That's really what they care about.
Right.
And price, of course that matters, but the reality is they don't want you to be a pain. They want this process to be a pain. So make it easy for them. Make it easy for them to say yes.
Yeah, they're buying you, man. How much do they trust you as a person? One of the things I like to say is, and it's amazing how these little phrases and these little things land. Being a coach all the years that I was a coach, no matter what profession I was in, I always coached. I was what they call an adjunct coach. So I got paid by the school district to coach, but I wasn't a teacher. But I just had a huge passion for coaching. And what I found was that, coaching is, man, like telling people how to do something and coaching is different, two different things. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all you have to do is build the confidence in people that they can go out there and do and accomplish the things that they maybe have never done before, right? And so what I loved about coaching was what I loved about coaching now. Same thing. It's like building up that confidence, giving you, the foundation. I think that the fundamentals of sales have gotten so out of whack. I hear people say, "Man, nobody cares who you are. You got 3 seconds to make an impact. They're going to decide if they're going to buy from you in 3 seconds." Man, I'm from the South, brother. Like, if you don't introduce yourself and you don't tell me who you are, dude, that, like, we're already off on a bad start. And what's funny to me, Corey, and you tell me what your thoughts are here, but so many businesses say, "Yeah, we're all about building relationships." But if you listen and if you go on a call and you go on door knocking with people, um, they don't ever ask who they're speaking with. Like, they might say, "Hey, I'm so and so with so and so company," right? But then it's like they never say, "And you are?" Like, they never find out who they're talking to. And like, even that, like, when I coach people, I say, "Listen, man, like, if you're starting, be real is relate, educate, ask, and listen," right? Relate is the core word of relationship. It's what everybody says they build their customers on. Like, we want to build relationships. What relationship have you ever started that you didn't want to know the name of the person you're talking to? Like, it's the basics of, if they're going to make that decision that fast, if they're going to buy for you or not, then why not lead with gratitude? Thank them for opening the door. How many people don't even thank them for coming and opening the door? If I was walking in a restaurant behind you and you just paused your life for 2 seconds for me to grab the door handle, every time I would say thank you, like
Yeah.
100%. And everybody that I know would. Everybody I've ever held the door for always thank me, man. I appreciate it, man. Thanks, bro. Like, something like that. But then we get so fast into our pitch, and like you said, the pressure of having to make money, that we just get like, "Hey, man, I'm so and so, and I'm here to the blah blah blah," and you just vomiting at the mouth, bro. Like, and those fundamentals, I think, is what we've gotten so far away from, and why so many people are so burnt out on salespeople.
Agreed. Because if you're vomiting all a bunch of information that I don't care about, you didn't give me a reason to care. If you just knocked on my door, I don't really. I mean, that's fine if you should introduce yourself, but as quickly as you can, engage that person in something they want to talk about.
Right.
And maybe it's not even. Maybe it has nothing to do with a roof or why ever you're knocking on that door. Just engage, right? People
Yeah.
just want to know that you care. And you mentioned gratitude, man. That hits home for me because you can't be pissed off and have gratitude at the same time.
Right.
You can't be fearful and have gratitude. And so if you lead with gratitude, likely you're going to have a much better result. And that's look, I just talked about this last night at a meeting. It's so important. And I'm not saying I'm always full of gratitude, but
Hmm.
I start my everyday gratitude list every single day. And it, for me, puts me in the right mindset to really appreciate the fact that I woke up this morning. Because guess what? It's not promised. None of that's promised.
That's right.
And if you got news today, now I know you just had a family incident, and I don't know, I can't remember the details of it. We don't have to go into it if you don't want to. But if I got if I went to the doctor's office today and the doctor said, "Hey, dude, like, you got some crazy thing going on. You got 3 months to live." All these other things that I worry about every day are going to completely be zero on the radar because none of
Hmm.
them are going to matter. If I'm worried about what's going to happen next year or in 6 months, none of that matters. If I get 3 months to live, none of it matters.
Right.
So why spend time on it today if it's going to happen 6 months from now, or if it's not going to happen 6 months from now? It doesn't really matter.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: we talked a little bit earlier about the pressure of sales, and it's hard to walk away. Um, I know when me and you were hanging out together up in Raleigh, um, I introduced you to one of my key phrases that everybody that hears it loves, and that's sometimes you're just bathing cats, brother. And the theory behind that is there's a point where I want to take care of the cat. I want to look after him. I want to make sure he got grease off of him that he might have got out there trying to get under a car, or maybe he got fleas or something like that. And I got to bathe this cat. And man, cats think you're trying to kill them when you bathe them. So like, I'm not going to sit here and get my arms chewed off and maybe my face chewed off to bathe this cat, dude. Like, I want to help you, but man, if you don't understand that and I can't make you understand that, it's not even your fault as a cat. Like, I get it. Like, that's just you. But I just kind of utter that phrase to myself as I walk away from a door that just seemed like it was going to be too much negativity. And originally my ego would make me want to stay there to overcome all the objections just to prove that I could. And it's like,
Yeah.
I remember one time, dude, like this guy was giving me the business, bro. Like, and I was in such a flow state, man. Like, I was just crushing. I mean, every time I went out, I was just knocking out 2 or 3. And I'm talking about knocking out 2 or 3 deals when we hadn't had a storm in 2.5 years. Like, so I'm every day I'm just nailing it. And I'm getting border over into that cockiness part. Like, you know what I mean? I just start training guys. And I'd only been doing this for like 4 months, dude. Like, I hadn't even been doing it that long, but of course, I got a long sales history before that. But I went through, and this guy was just giving me the business. I was training the guy, and it was like, I just want to prove to him that okay, here's how you overcome that objection. Then he give me another one. And just in live real time, I'm just knocking these things down. Well, we signed the deal. Dude, there has never in history been a harder person to deal with. When I handed him off to the production team, like all those guys were ready to quit the company. So I had to deal with another guy like this, I'm done. Because ultimately, you're not just doing it for you; you're exposing them to your entire team. Like,
Right.
and they don't have your skill set, right? And you only really have to deal with them in this small window, and then they got to deal with them through construction, which, as you know, there's how many construction jobs just go perfectly A to Z perfect. So I just learned that term from that conversation. I was like, dude, man, I want to help you, bro. I want you to get a new roof. Maybe your roof isn't leaking right now, but you got some significant hail damage. But man, I'm not bathing no more cats, brother. And so that became my trigger word, you know what I mean? And just a trigger phrase that I would just say to just like, oh, cut it off. And then fast forward maybe 2 or 3 months later, I'm in Clemson, South Carolina, knock on a door, super nice house. Compliment again, I'm training somebody, compliment the guy. We start off and he's just looking at me like I'm completely out of my damn mind. And I could just tell from his demeanor, his energy, bro, like he didn't respond when I complimented his yard he had these huge, like 4 foot by 4 foot square concrete things that were like diamond shaped going up to the front of his house with like the perfect, like 2 inches of perfect green grass between each one. It was absolutely beautiful. And I got up there and commented on that, dude, and he just nothing. So when I finally got to where, I was letting him talk and he started talking and I said, man, you know what, man, you got my business card. Just give me a call. You're probably okay. Just give me a call if you need help. And I just left. Like I just in the middle of his sentence because I was like, dude, we're not doing this again. Like, and the guy that was with me said, dude, why'd you do that? I said, because I'm gonna go get 2 more neighbors. I'm not wasting my energy on this guy. And so
Yeah.
that bathing cats became like a call for me, to kind of like keep me from getting upset. You know what I mean? So talk to me about when do you feel like is the time in a process where, okay, well, this just probably isn't going to pan out or it's not worth it if it does.
When I got to work my brains out to try to move it across the line. If I got to work harder than you to move this thing across the line, then either one, I'm not doing I'm not presenting things right, or I haven't said it right to where you could hear it. But if I got to work so hard, I got to follow you 12 or 15 times, dude, like I can't force you to buy it. I can't force you to purchase this product that I know is going to help you. But if you can't see it, it's like perception. If I perceive you're a jerk, that's my perception. Doesn't matter if you're really a jerk. If I perceive that way, or if I perceive that you're just trying to sell me something, or I perceive that you're a snake in the grass, or I perceive you're a great guy, that's 100% fact from my perception.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't change my perception unless, if I've already got an idea that you're another guy knocking on my door that's going to bother me, that's his perception of you before you ever walk up. If you can't break that in that first little bit, and likely it's going to be tough because you don't know. We went to a guy's, I don't know, I was working with the company, I don't know, it's probably a year ago. And the guy, we walked in, it was an HVAC company. We walked in, he said, I ain't making a decision today. I can tell you that right now. I am not making a decision today. And the guy at the HVAC company kind of rolled his eyes. And he's like, yeah, da, da, da. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. I mean, what made you say that you weren't making a decision today? It seems like you've been burnt, or seems like you've had a bad experience. And he unleashed about this roofer, actually, that came to his house and tried to rip him off for a $15,000 roof, called somebody else, and they did it for $8,000. And so he was coming off a really bad experience. And so I sat there and just chatted with him, and he told me all about the experience and all the things that had happened. He got it all off his chest. Yeah. And I listened to him. Did I want to sit there and listen to all that garbage? I didn't. The approach that I took gave him the space to raise hell about this thing that didn't have anything to do with me, but he was judging me on it. Walked in, we just got all of it on the table, right? And by me asking, seems like you've had a bad experience, he just unleashed, and he felt better that he told me this story about this roofer. I was empathetic.
I'm sure you know this. That's a Chris Voss technique.
100%.
The Black Swan, yeah.
He's a master.
Yeah, man, it's beautiful. Oh yeah, he's
beautiful.
It's crazy.
And if you think about that, and it's a 50-50 shot. His example is he uses it. He's walking up to somebody at a hotel or an airline, and he just says, "Seem like you're having a tough day." And his whole philosophy behind that is, when you're knocking on somebody's door, they already think they're having a tough day because they got to deal with you. So if you say it seems like you're having a tough day, matter of fact, I am. And here's why. Or not really. And then you pivot either way. You're not accusing them of anything. You're just opening that dialogue to get them to talk. And it works.
Oh, yeah. I tell you, I heard another version of that. And I've heard Chris talk about it in so many podcasts, and I've taken in so much content of his. But there's a book called The Science of Selling. And I can't remember the guy's name. It's over there on the board somewhere on the bookcase, or the other bookcase in there. But he talks about, this is amazing. And that was a great book. If you've not read The Science of Selling, dude, like, you really should dive into that thing. Just do the Audible and listen to it while you're driving. But talks about, and the original study was done back in the 30s. Then it was redone several times. But basically, the core of it, and I won't remember every detail, but they was at a mill or somewhere, and they were trying to get production up. So they came in there, they changed something where they got, like, instead of an hour break, they got a 30-minute break, and then they got 2 15s. So they wasn't working quite as long in between. And then their production went up a percentage. Then they came back and said, okay, well, now we're only work 4 days a week. We don't work 5 days. We'll work 2 more hours those other 4 days and make up for it. So production went up again. And they kept making these little small changes, right? And every time it got better. And it even got better when they went back to the original way that it was from the beginning. And you wonder, well, why in the world would that be the case? But it was because they knew they were being, they were being watched. Like, this was something they were doing to track and see how you're doing. So every time they knew that the eyes was on them. And how that pertains to sales is, when you come and say, so it seems like you're having a bad day today, is today actually still a good time for us to meet? And now, because they know that you are actually paying attention to them, they're like, nah, I'm good. They may spill the beans of what's been going on, or they may not. But now that they know that you've identified them as having a bad day, they either have the opportunity to spill it out or whatever. Irregardless, they know that you're paying attention. You are being observative enough to notice that in the beginning, and it kind of shifts them out of that. I mean, it's crazy. But that book is phenomenal. You would get a lot out of it.
Yeah, I would definitely have to check it out. It also shows, likely, he uses an example about doing this in the grocery store. Most people in the grocery store, if you go through the human being line at this point, which I don't really, but if you do, what's the chances of that person at the grocery store being asked how their day is? Probably slim to none,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you speak to somebody and engage them, and you don't have to do it for any sort of gain. It's really just being a human being, and you get back that energy that, by asking somebody how they're doing. Maybe the only time they've been asked all day how they're doing.
Right. Right.
You may make that person's day. And I believe in when you put out good stuff, you get good stuff back, and the vice versa. If you're putting out, negative vibes, you're likely going to get that back.
Right. Oh, for sure. I know we talked about books a few times. What are just one, two, maybe three books that you've read that you took a lot from, and what were your key takeaways? And it could be about life or sales or whatever. But what are three good ones?
So I'll mention Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference. I think it's one of the best. It's one of my top two sales books in my opinion. The top sales book I'll give you is The Sales Boss. Actually, I work for that guy now. He's the CEO of Who Hire. His name is Jonathan Wistman, and I've listened to that book several times, and he just talks about how to, and it's not sales, and he's killing me. I don't know the acronym BOSS, but it's not the same context as what you'd be thinking. It's not, It's not saying to be a sales boss. I can't remember the acronym. Anyhow, the idea behind it though is to be able to lead. It's a sales leadership and sales organizational leadership book. And he's worked with sales organizations all over the world. And obviously he doesn't do that now, but the book's really good. It just talks about team building and how to hire the right people, so on and so forth. And then the third, on a personal note, would be The Power of Now. And the reason that book's important to me is because, for 45 and a half years, I've not lived in the present moment. I'm here with you now, having this conversation. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not on my phone. I'm not looking at anything else. I'm just here with you. Mm-hmm. And there's been so many times in my life that I was not doing that. I was doing other things or having a conversation with my partner and on the phone. It's just not really fair to the other person, and it's not fair to me to miss those moments. And so I've tried to really focus on, staying right where my feet are. And that book really helped me to get there.
That's awesome. When did you take that book in?
I've probably taken it in. This is going to sound like a crazy person, but over the last 18 months, I've probably listened to it 15 times. Okay.
That's not crazy, man. It's when you get a good book that really hits home like that, you just want to drink from that cup. You know what I mean? It's just you. That's where you get your energy and get your mindset. I know people just read the Bible 3 times, and they still read the book every day. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just, there's power in that. Well, let me ask you this: what do you feel? Really, 2 questions. Number one, well, let's just stick with this one. We're not going to throw them both out there. Do you think that salespeople can be trained, or are they just kind of born?
I'll say both. I think that good salespeople need training. I don't think you're born I think you're probably born with some sales ability. I think I probably was born with the gene of connecting with people and enjoying being around people and the gift of gab, so to speak, which I really don't love that. But here's the thing, you can have all those traits and still be a shit salesperson. Unless you've had some experience poured into you or you've experienced it on your own, you don't just naturally know how to connect with people in a way that can move a sale forward. You don't know naturally how to ask the right questions, and you certainly don't naturally know when to shut your mouth. Most salespeople I found, they just steamroll you with a bunch of information that most of the time is irrelevant to the sale. But they do
Mm.
that because they're insecure. They don't, maybe they don't know the product as good as they feel like they should. And so they fill in the gaps with a bunch of shit that's not really important. And really what you're doing when you do that is you're clouding that person's decision.
Hmm.
You're you're putting a bunch of stuff in my mind if somebody's talking to me that's irrelevant to me making the decision. So detract from me being able to make that decision. If you're eating up my brain power with a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, eventually I'm gonna cash out. Eventually I'm gonna say I'm good. I'm just not gonna make a decision because you've painted so many different things in this thing. Now I got all these other decisions to make.
Right.
And another thing I see salespeople and myself, I've done this after they say, yeah, I want to move forward with your roofing company. What do most guys do? They just start spitting out all this other crap that just stop. If they say, let's move forward, shut your
Right.
mouth and
Right.
move forward because
Right.
you may paint some things in that picture that they didn't think about. And now they got decisions to make about the things that you threw in there extra that didn't even matter.
Right. Well, Corey, you know what I think, man? The more I've consulted and worked with companies in different industries, I've trained 9 different industries at this point, working on 2 more currently. But the uh, the the fact that so many people that are in charge of, the entrepreneurs that start the companies, maybe they were naturally just gifted at sales, and that's what made them decide they want to start their own company, right? But then when they start building a team, they think that sales is just giving them all the information about the products and the services, but it's not how to relate to people, how to sales is not just a bunch of information. If that was the case, they could just go to your website, buy everything, or you could hand them a flyer and they would just buy it all from that. Like that's where I think the big mix up is like we think we're training people for sales when we tell them all the things that we do and what this product does and what this service will provide. And it's just all the things, man. And like there's no connectivity. There's no understanding how to flow through a conversation. Like you said, when to shut up, when to ask the right question, when to label somebody, when to mirror somebody, when to, all the different tactics that we talk about. These are tactic things that none of them have anything specific to do with your product or your service. Like literally one of the most powerful things that I said when I knew nothing about roofs, if they asked me anything technical about it that I knew nothing about, and I've done this in other industries. Look, man, Mr. Corey, I'm always going to address you by your name because I'm going to find out your name first. Mr. Corey, that's a great question. Let me tell you, I'm just be completely transparent with you. Man, we got a great, you know how I work for this team? I work for this company because we got a great team. And the people that know that question know that thing inside and out. They're phenomenal at it. They build 250 roofs a month. I mean, a year. I said, I'm not that guy, but you give me a little bit of time, I'll find out for you. Okay. And I just own that, dude. But like, because I bragged on my company, like now they realize they're not just buying me. Yeah, they're buying me because I'm trust and I'm not full of shit and just telling them a bunch of shit they want to hear. So they can
Right.
respect that right off the bat. Dude, you know how many times I told somebody, man, I don't know that, bro. Like, honestly, but you don't know why I work for this company. And I don't care what company I was at because we got a bunch of guys that know that like the best there is. And I love working for them because I know that I don't have to go back and apologize for things that we do wrong later on because we're out here making it up. I don't know the answer to that question. I'll get back to you. Like
Yeah.
that is sales. That is sales. Like
Yeah.
admitting that you don't know something is sales. Like because you're
And
building the trust. I got a sales triangle: trust, value, and urgency. You don't build trust, value, and urgency, you're out the door, bro. Like you got, it's not going to work. Building trust through transparency and honesty, dude. Like that's the most powerful thing. Before I knew what I was doing in sales, before I knew anything about a roof, I was leading the company in sales.
so let's talk about urgency for a second. And I just want you to break this down, see this part. And I've seen you do the training on this. I think it's extremely valuable. Urgency is not pressure. It's not me forcing you to make a decision. So tell us what from your standpoint, urgency, what does that look like?
finding the pain point, finding out what the pain is, and uncovering pains that they may not even know that they have. Right. So let's just, I mean, we're on roofing, and I tend to end up coming back and talking about roofing a lot. But it's true in other industries. Just roofing is so simple. If I come and knock on your door and I just tell you that there is a hailstorm, Miss Sally down the road, and 15 other people are getting new roofs, and I'm here to, all you got to do is pay your deductible, and I'm trying to create all this urgency, right? All you know is your check engine light isn't on. What is a check engine light? That's a water stain on your ceiling. So if your check engine light is not on, then you don't think that you have a problem, right? The pain has not been uncovered because they don't understand that the hail that happened today may not manifest itself inside your home for another year, year and a half. Well, guess what? There's a little secret in there. Insurance companies cap it at a 1 year from the storm date that they're not going to pay for the damage anymore because you were negligent, knowing dang good and well that that water is not going to maybe make its way through the underlayment, the decking, the insulation, and the sheetrock before it shows up on your ceiling, right? So I have to uncover that so they understand the urgency of why we need to do this now. We can't wait until your check engine light is on, right? So it's a matter of uncovering. So that, and you do that through your discovery, through asking the right questions. One of the big questions I love to ask, so do you have any leaks that you're aware of? Notice I didn't say, do you have any leaks? Because the only way you're going to know you got a leak is when that check engine light is on. But by planting that urgency seed, right, then they hear you say that you're aware of, all of a sudden they're like, dang, there's leaks I may not be aware of. Now, all of a sudden, I planted an urgency seed without being pushy or anything like that. You came to that realization, right? Just the way I framed my question, right? And that, so it doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's always ways. That's weird. Always ways. There's always, I put too many ways on there. There's always an avenue and a strategy that you can employ on how to ask the questions that they come to the realization themselves. That's how I choose to create urgency, because there's no pressure there. It's not a good idea unless it's your idea. I'm going to uncover those things and let you come to the realization that, man, I'm glad this guy's here. You know what I mean? Did that answer your question at all?
Yeah, definitely. You know, and another question I think is a really good one is, you know, obviously you've got some shingles down. If I'm here just to do an inspection in a storm, blah, blah, blah. If I see anything else that looks concerning, would you like me to tell you about it, or would you like me to keep it to myself?
Right.
Well, yeah, you have it work every now and then, say keep it to yourself. But likely they're going to say, Ken, of course, I want you to tell me if you see anything else. Now you've got permission to tell them everything is wrong with that roof.
Right.
And they're expecting it.
Right. Well, and you know, you have to add the value. You know how I feel about the word free. It drives me crazy. Yeah. I'll say this to you, and I've said it in front of every group I've gotten in front of, and nothing in life is what? Free. Why is that a saying? That's a saying because people know inherently that every time they've been hoodooed or something like that, like there's always like some kind of a technique people came up with way back in the day, says, well, it's free right here. And there's always a hook on the other side of that. But free is not, doesn't explain value, right? Because I mean, if it's free, it must not be worth anything. Like these are the things that are going on subconsciously with people, because so often this has happened. Either one of two things about you saying something's free: either it's not valuable enough for you to put a dollar amount to it, or it's just bull crap so that you can kind of hook me into doing something else that I don't want to do. And you're not brave enough to just tell me what it is you're actually here for. So you tell me you're going to give me something free. Now you've just got these barriers building up, like you said, when you clog people's minds up, and then they just end up saying, no, I'm good, because they don't want to have to go to like figure out all this. Like they don't want to play the games. So I don't even use the term, but I always put the value. So, I even take away the fact that it's a, like if I say I'm going to do inspection, so we do a complimentary property inspection. We're going to do the entire external property, all of your property, all the external components. And also what a lot of other people say they love, and this is where I use the kind of that third party thing, right? I can tell you I love it or I think it's great. That's just me. I'm the guy in front of you trying to get you to do something. But when I include somebody else, this is, Grant Cardone talks about a lot of this in a couple of his different sales books. But it's when I tell them what other clients really like and what they really like about this complimentary property inspection is we do what we call a virtual tour of your roof, where we bring your roof down to you. So we'll do an inspection, bring it down, let you watch it. And here's where I overcome the time thing. And I'm taking all the pressure. There's no urgency on the front end, bro. Like we don't need any urgency because I've not earned the right, and I don't know. I don't know unless there's snapped off shingles or something I could have seen from the road. There really is. They don't understand why I'm even there. So when I say I'm there, to do the inspection, and then when I show you your video, if you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, I'll be on my way. Right. But so now I've taken that pressure away. Like I don't, because no matter what I say on the front end, doesn't matter. If I bring a video down that shows you that your roof is all jacked to hell, I don't have to say anything else. You're going to hand me my phone back and say, so what do we do now? So what do we do next? Like, what's our next move? 90% of the time, that's the reaction I get. I literally never sold you anything. I'm so confident in that. And you know this, I keep $100 Visa cash card with my business cards. And whenever I see no soliciting, I'm so confident that I hold that $100 Visa cash card up when they first open the door. Say, look, I saw your no soliciting sign there. This is a $100 Visa cash card I give away for referrals. I'm going to set this right here on this chair. And if at any time during our conversation, I try to sell you anything, I want you to take your wife out to eat on me. Okay. So how long have you owned your home? Like, that's how confident I am that I'm not going to sell you anything during my process. You are going to come to it yourself. And that's really
it almost hacks your mind too, right? Because it's a challenge then for you to make sure you don't try to sell them anything because you don't want to give them $100.
Right.
Right.
Well, I can tell you early on when I first came up with that idea, I bought a Visa cash card and I used $98 of it. So I just had a $2 was on it. So if he'd have went, he better been at the dollar menu, brother. Like, I don't know what to say.
but it's right. We talked about earlier. He's perceiving that's worth $100. He doesn't, I mean, most guys are not going to put their money where their mouth is. And that's really what you're doing with that.
But the confidence is for me was that I know that I'm here for a good reason. You know what I mean? Like, I know I'm not here to sell you something you don't need. If I am here to sell you something, it's going to be something that you actually need. And that's what people have a problem with. People don't have a problem with buying stuff. People buy stuff every damn day. People have been sold to every day. People have paid too much money for stuff every day. They're probably living in a house that they said they wouldn't spend that much. They're probably driving a car they said they wouldn't spend that much. They're used to that. And I really feel like the no soliciting sign is just them trying to play self-defense. Like the reason alcoholic would say, yeah, I'll go hang out at the bar and watch a football game. Like, no, you can come over to the house and we can watch it, but I'm not going out there with everybody drinking and carrying on. Like, you just don't put, so the no soliciting is like, dude, I'm going to make bad decisions and I need these people to not come to my house. I make enough bad decisions away from my house. I don't need them to come to my house and damn get me in trouble with my wife. So they, you know what I mean? Like, she's going to come home and there'll be 3 cases of damn Girl Scout cookies up there because your ass can't say no.
And I'm that guy. Like, I don't want to answer the door because I'm going to buy it, whatever it is.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Well, share a story with me right quick, Corey, where a sale seemed like it wasn't going to pop off, man. And then maybe through a technique or just out of the blue or something that you just kind of discovered, freewheeling it or shooting from the hip, man, where you pulled it off and actually got the sale to go through, man. Tell us a good story about that.
So I had about a $50,000 consulting job that I had knocked the thing out of the park, and I could solve their problems. And this is a perfect story. But I told myself they weren't going to move forward for X, Y, and Z reason. And I didn't follow up. And finally, I just followed up with them. And she said, "Oh, I'm so glad you followed up. I just need you to take this one thing out of the contract and we'll move forward." My point in telling you that story, even though it was a bit short, is you never know why people are not moving forward until you ask them.
Mhm.
You never know unless you follow up. The money's in the follow up. I know follow up's a pain in the ass. I'm fully aware of that, and nobody enjoys it. But unless you follow up, you're not. And I've seen you do this over and over. You've left notes on people's houses over and over and over until you get an answer.
Mhm.
And if you don't ask the question, you're not going to get the answer. So my point is, I was telling myself this story as to why they didn't move forward. And that story was just a made up story in my own mind.
Right.
And the lesson was I almost lost that deal because of that,
Right.
which is ridiculous. Best
So
believe I follow up
do you
now.
think it's because you hear everybody talk about follow-ups. Some of it is automated, some of it is just your sales manager every couple of weeks looking through your CRM and saying, have you followed up with them? And you coming up with some bullcrap story. But do you feel like, for me, if I know that the money, if I know that the money is still there, if I just go back and touch them again, is it not knowing? Do you think it's not being experienced enough to know or had situations like that play out enough in your history to where you know that it's in the follow up, or do you feel like it's kind of like we get so spoiled in the one touch closes that we just don't even want to mess with it? Like, what do you think is the mindset that keeps people from doing that?
I think follow up is such a grueling process. And until you've had a win through a follow up, it's really hard to imagine follow up being worth anything. And I think it just comes with experience and repetition. And most people don't want to put in that work. Most people don't want to keep following up with people. Do you think about, we're busy people. It's
Mhm.
I have to see on average, statistically, I have to see something 8 to 12 times before I move forward on it. I get emails every day that I don't give a shit about until
Mhm.
it's time for me to give a shit about it. And the point is, I've seen that email 10 times. And so whenever it's time for me to care about it, that's the person I'm going to because I've seen it 10 times.
Right.
Right. And I don't know that you want to knock on a door 10 days in a row, but checking in with people once a week, if you know that they've got a roofing problem, there's a
Mhm.
reason why they haven't changed that roof. But you got to figure out what that reason is. And as soon as they tell you, by the way, I've already got the insurance money and spent it, and I can't afford to replace the roof because I spent it on whatever, you got your answer. And now you can stop following up with that person and move to somebody that's going to buy. It's just one
Right.
step closer to somebody that's going to buy. But that's where I think the mindset comes from. You just get kicked in the teeth over and over, and it's hard to imagine this time's going to be different.
Right. I get that. So do you think that again, that goes back to our personal development, because I don't think that a in-house, like a sales leader or sales manager, whatever, is going to necessarily get you to where you change that perspective. I think that goes back to reading the books like David Goggins and, like, you know what I mean, like get you some Jocko Willink under your belt, like, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
like teaching you perseverance, and like where you have that has to be inside, bro. Like, I don't think that being pushed by a sales leader makes you necessarily go and follow up. Like, you have to understand the value, you have to get the work ethic. Like, it's just laziness, man. I just watched a guy's Facebook yesterday, and I forgot the guy's name, but he was on there doing a Facebook Live in the neighborhood where there had been a hailstorm. And he goes, man, the difference, man, like this morning there was like 8 trucks out here, and now it's 6 o'clock in the afternoon. He looked around with his camera and said, there ain't a truck out here, bro. Like, this neighborhood got pelted with hail and nobody wants to work. Like, it's work ethic. It's, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of that's
Yeah.
just a huge gap. So what do you think is the biggest gap in sales training today? Like, people that are actually being trained by their sales leaders, and they're in the role where they're supposed to be pouring in and coaching them. What do you think the biggest gap is?
I think that, let's say as a sales manager, let's just take a sales manager as an example. Depending on how that sales manager is getting paid and depending on how much personal development they've done, and I do believe that is important, unless you're going to spend ample time day in and day out as a sales manager with your team and listening to them. And sometimes you got to have conversations about things that are completely irrelevant. But it goes back to relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard if you're not willing to invest the time in people to develop that. Now, you can develop sales skills in people, but to really get somebody to work hard for you as a sales manager, you've got to be able to invest time in those people. It's just like when I rode with you, you invested, I don't know how long we spent together, but you invested all that time in me. We talked about various things, and they were even about roofing. And here we are 2-3 years down the road, and we're buddies because you took time to spend with me just to kind of show me the ropes and have conversation. We had a cigar. Like, it was just a different kind of experience. And if you can bring that, I know you do, into companies and can teach them, empathy, can teach them how to care, that's important. And a lot of people just don't know how to do that.
It's people skills, and I think as a society, people skills is like a dinosaur trait, man. Like, I mean, people they're playing video games, they're hacking up stuff on Facebook, and they're just as much as they can be on their own. They're just like we're not all meshed together in this big old pot where we just have to intermingle with people. Like everything, like you can go to Walmart and just sit in the parking lot. And they bring your stuff you ordered online. Like, you mean like it's just you don't even, Uber Eats brings you food. Like you don't have to. I mean, it's so disconnected, man. Like,
Yeah.
and the thing is, as much as we want to automate, we got all these companies that handle your social media and your generate leads, and you do your advertising and all these different things, man. That's wonderful. That gets you some at bats. That gets the person in front of you. That gets you on the other phone, on the other line of the phone with them, but other end of the phone. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to somebody's got to close somebody. Like there still has to be a personal, like, understanding of how to create this, because all the information and logos and branding and marketing and all that stuff, that just gets you on bats, bro. At bats, they don't get you on base or get you around the home plate. That's still people skills. And that's the reason I went out and started the Be Real sales training program, because I see such a gap there that people don't naturally have that, ability to just go out there and just do it. I think our life experiences molds us for being good at what we do. Like, me and you've talked about our historically things we've been through and things we've dealt with or whatever. For me personally, always being the outcast, so to speak, because I grew up in a bunch of different hood neighborhoods. I was usually by far the minority where I was at. And then we would get evicted all the time for not paying rent. So I was always in a new neighborhood. So I was a new, like, minority, in the neighborhood. And so you just learn this to carry yourself with a certain confidence and a certain arrogance. And you learn how to become that chameleon that just fits into whatever, dude. And how that related to sales, man, has changed my life. But I know everyone doesn't have that skill set. So you talk about empathy. It's like in sales leadership, sometimes you're in that position probably because you was good at sales, but being good at it and teaching it and coaching is two different things. Because if that was the case, man, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, whenever they coached, they would have won 20 world championships. But neither one of them could coach their way out of a paper bag. And it's because just the same reason Michael Jordan would say, dude, just dunk it from the free throw line. Why do I need to tell you how to damn run a play? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it came
Right.
so natural to them, doesn't make them that they're going to be a great coach. You know what I'm saying? And
It's just
and
like Bill Belichick, right? Bill Belichick ain't gonna go out there and play on the field, but he's the best coach to teach these guys how to do it.
Right.
That don't mean he can run. It doesn't mean he can run a play himself.
Right. Well,
so I think it takes experience, it takes patience, and it takes building trust with your team if you want them to work for you. And that's just the truth. And most owners don't have the time to do that. They just don't. If they have the skills, they don't have the time. Most of them don't even have the skills.
Right. Well, let's as we start to wind down, I know you're working on a second book now, but man, I know you. I know you always have some things cooking. But what's your BHAG right now, man?
Um, well, I've just taken on this position with Who Hire, and their goal is to be, um, I'm helping them with business development, and I'm helping them with some sales stuff. But really, my goal here is to be a part of an organization that should be valued at over $300 million. And my goal is to help them move that quicker than 3 years, because that was the goal when I came on. And I'm hoping we can do that in less than 2.
Right. Very nice. Well,
Yeah.
as we finish out, man, I'd like to first of all, thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for just the conversation, but also just kind of sharing a little bit of your story and your book, and I'm looking forward to the other book coming out. And we're definitely going to jump on to Into the Storm podcast and talk about some more personal life stuff. Kind of get that out there because I know you've dealt with some stuff and overcome some stuff, man, and that's what Into the Storm is about with that group. So, but in closing, man, share a quote or a phrase or something that you kind of carry with you, just like a go to for you that maybe somebody else could use.
If you believe you can, I don't know if I'll say it right, but if you believe that you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. And I probably screwed that up a little bit, but the point is, whatever
Either way,
you
you're right.
believe,
Yep.
either way, you're right.
Yep.
That's right.
That's great stuff, man. And there couldn't be truer words, man. Like sometimes we're blindly people like me and you, like we're blindly confident that we can. like,
That's
of course I can
right.
do that. You know what I mean?
Of
Like
course.
I remember one time, man, and just to kind of touch on that is I had no business doing this, but Greenville County is the largest county in South Carolina. We've got huge. We got 7, I think, YMCA's. They're freaking packed with kids. I'd got out of coaching. I was like, dude, I need a break. I coached 78 sports teams in 6 sports in 26 years. And I told my wife at the time, I said, we had our daughter, and I said, you sign her up for 4-year-old soccer at the YMCA, but do not check the box at where I'm coaching. So 2 days later, I get a phone call. Guess who's coaching? So I'm I'm coaching my daughter's soccer team, and we get out there, and I'm just having fun, dude. Like I've been through coaching high school, basketball, AAU, college camps, doing all the coaching I could do. And now I'm just going to have fun, dude. It's 4-year-old soccer. So I got a little bitty camera about the size of a pack of cigarettes, and I'm running around with these 4-year-olds on the field, and I'm just taking pictures, really the top of their heads. Like I'm not even getting down there and making it look all cinematic. And at the end, I put it into this program called Animoto, and it created a little cool video. And it's got add some little fancy stuff, and they got stock music in there. And I shared that link to the director at the YMCA along with my parents. And they're like, oh my God, this is so awesome. You think you could do that for all of our teams next season? I said, say less. Of course I can. Dude, I have no idea about photography. All I have is this little pocket camera the size of a thing. And literally in 2 weeks, Corey, I'm in front of the YMCA board for Greenville County with 7 directors there. And I told those people that on their season that is starting in 3 weeks for their next season for baseball and flag football, that I could take photos and make these videos for every team in the county. 410 teams. They only play on Saturdays, and they're at 7 different locations. They play a 10-week season, right? So I've got to finish all these in 9 weeks to have them back to them. Dude, I came back and went in complete scramble mode. But at the end of the day, I succeeded. I ended up shooting for Furman, the South Atlantic Conference. I got contracts with drag racing, motocross. People wanted me to do weddings and stuff like that. Dude, but the scramble mode that I was in from me telling them I could do that, like I wasn't even a company. So I had to go and buy $20,000 worth of equipment, like lenses and all kind of stuff. I called a guy from the newspaper that came out and did the Friday night, took photos for the newspaper. I just happened to know him from coaching. And I said, can I come and just follow you around? You tell me. And because he shot a Nikon, I bought a Nikon because I just needed everything to line up because I couldn't go learn Canon. Like it's a different setup.
Yeah.
So I bought Nikon. He told me what all to get. I said, dude, that's like $20,000 for these lenses and everything. So, dude, you got to have it. So I went and mirrored him for like 3 nights. We just went out and did some sports stuff. And I came back and played with the settings. I was out here shooting birds, squirrels running around on the trees. Because catching action shots is different, bro. Like
different.
They're not gonna go back and complete that pass a second time because you missed the shot. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm taking these photos and dude, I freaking nailed it, man. And so in 10 weeks, I cleared like $40,000 after I paid 2 other photographers. I hired 2 other photographers. I said, dude, I'll pay you $25 a game. And like I had no guaranteed sales. So I put their little video DVD on a little DVD. I had to buy a tower. And dude, if you saw how much stuff I put together in that short of time, but the thing that blows people's mind is when I'm halfway through the season, people are like, how long have you been doing this? I was like, dude, I just started whenever I found out I was going to be doing it for y'all. So I ended up exiting out and selling that company with all the contracts that I had. But my God, dude, it's like, I don't know where the confidence comes from. Like, I have no clue, but you know, we're fortunate enough that a lot of the people that we run with and our circles, man, we're full of people like that just say win, bro. Like that's what this tattoo means. So that's my Doc Holliday say win tattoo. So just say win, man. Let's do it.
That's it. Well, man,
Awesome.
I appreciate you having me on. I really do. This has been great. I look forward to this coming out.
Yeah, good deal, man. And look for the invite to jump on to the Into the Storm podcast, man, soon. And I need to come check out yours. And maybe if you think I got some value, I'll jump on yours, man, and we can chop it up.
We'll get it scheduled.
Awesome, brother. Take it easy, man. Guys, always be honest, always be helpful, and always be real.
You're dark and here, live as to be a day. You're dark and here, live as to be a day. You're dark and here, live as to be a day.